Welcome to the Great British Pinball Podcast, and here are your hosts Scott Rundell and Neil McRae.
Welcome everybody, Neil McRae here. I'm joined by my partner in crime.
Hello. Scott here, how you doing?
How you doing, Scott?
Not too bad.
Busy week of pinball hard work.
When is it not, to be honest?
You're supposed to say no, it's enjoyment, it's
a
hobby.
So
I
great.
love every minute of it.
I can't wait. Every moment is great, Neil. I love it. I love screws.
I have to say, I know how busy Scott is because he's currently doing my Theatre Magic. I think we mentioned this last episode, and it's got to the kind of the fiddly, annoying...
The dialing in stage, I call it.
The swearing stage.
It can definitely be. I mean, a lot of it is, fine-tuning. You just got to get everything right. That's with pinball, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Luke, we'll talk about that when it's finished and put some pictures up. But so far, I mean, I'm super excited about it, and it's, as you know, a special game that the wife bought me. I should put a poster of it. She bought it for Christmas. She actually wrapped it. I should put the photo up on Facebook at some point in time. So, look, here's the intro. We'll talk a little bit about what we've done in pinball this month, any new stuff that we've got. We're going to talk a bit about some mods that we've got that are out in the market that we think are great. Scott's going to talk about that. Then a little bit on rumors. I kind of highlighted this. There's a lot on rumor mill right now. Also, maybe talk about the state of the market a little bit because there's a lot of debate about what's really the state of the market. New code updates. We had two big kind of code updates in the last few weeks. So it really made a difference that we wanted to cover. And then we'll end with what's going on in the UK. Obviously, there's a massive show that, as you listen to this, you're probably on your way to it. UK PINFEST up at Daventry. Phil and the gang doing their usual great event. And I think it'll be a wonderful event. Some cool stuff up there, although I was sad to hear that Weird Al isn't going to make it.
It's a shame.
And we'll cover some other events towards the that are coming on from now to the end of the year. So let's. What have we done pinball this month, or since the last show? I'm going to say, I finished. You might, if you're watching this on YouTube, which we do record it, although we are an audio podcast, but we do record a video. You'll see behind me my James Bond 007. The LE that arrived broken. I don't know if you saw my unboxing video, Scott.
I did. I was on your live chat on Twitch when you were talking me through the mess that it was. I mean, I was shocked, to be honest with you.
So outside my shed, I'll put a photo of it up on Facebook as the old cabinet. But let me tell you, there was a lot of doomsayers about how hard it would be to move. Actually, the cabinet came pre-wired. It had everything in it. The only thing it didn't have were the side blades, which Stern sent out and I put on.
That's simple enough, yeah.
Yeah, it's just easier to do it when there's no playfield in it. And then I moved the playfield and the back box over. I timed it. It took me 18 minutes, 22 seconds.
That's
but
there
was this big elapsed part of me realizing there was no art blades and having to order them, which took about 6 weeks. But the game's in, thanks to Phil at Pinball Heaven, Chris at Electrocoin, and the Stern guys for getting it over. Although I have to say, if that happens again, I'm going to send the game back because.
I was going to say, what happens to those games? Like, is it Rush that's got the expression lighting? Is that recessed into the cabinet, the lighting?
Yeah. So actually, I just fitted it to the one that we have in Pinball Republic.
Oh, really? Okay.
And basically, there's like two slots. You unscrew them. There's plastic spacers, and you slide them in.
Okay.
But let me tell you, I mean, you can do it with the playfield in. And actually, Carl D'Angelo, I was talking to him about it, i.e. Pinball. He did it with the playfield in because he's at home. He's limited for space. Brad helped me get the playfield out for the one in Pinball Republic, and we put it in without the playfield. It just makes it so much quicker, so much easier. And also, if you get you can move the transfer around a little bit. And when you're doing the expression lighting, some of it's already pre-done, so you've got to match it up.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
yeah, it's not
I'm wondering if
hard.
that's. Do you think that's going to become a norm? Do you think Stern's going to keep doing that, or is it that was an experiment? Do you think a bit like the projector with Stranger Things?
No, so it's now on 3 games. So it's on
Okay.
Led Zeppelin where it started, it's on Rush, and it's on Foo Fighters. Now, the
Oh, I didn't
interesting
know it was
thing
on Foo
is,
Fighters. Okay.
yeah, well, it's only on Foo Fighters LE, and it's only on Rush LE.
So it's not. Oh, right. So they've actually added an actual feature into an LE that's not on the premium.
Yeah, which I'll be honest with you, which is fine because I buy the LE, but I also bought a premium Foo and a premium Rush for Pinball Republic, and it doesn't have it on it, and it's a bit. Given the money, I'm thinking, that's a bit tight, and it's not a cheap
Yeah.
upgrade. It's like, I want to say $500. So
Oh, so you can still buy it even if you
still
buy a
buy it.
Pro, as an example. You can still
Yeah.
get it, right?
No.
Ah, okay.
So apparently, and I need to check this, but you can't install it on Foo Fighters Pro or on Rush Pro. Or is that right, on Rush Pro? You could definitely install it on Led Zepp Pro. I think you can install it on Rush Pro.
Is that because the recess is missing, or have they
Yeah,
blocked it out?
the recess is missing. You
Oh.
definitely cannot install it on Foo Fighters Pro. Which again, as someone who buys the premium LE, I kind of like that, but it seems a bit.
I'm trying to think, like, what would the price difference be then if you bought a premium and then had to upgrade it to add the expression lighting? What kind of price difference are we then between that and the LE at that point?
Yeah, I mean, so if I use the American prices, I think it's $13,000 for the LE, 11,000 for the, is it 11,000? Maybe 10 and a half for the premium. It's $500 for the kit.
So
So it's,
it's definitely encroaching on the LE number at that point, isn't it?
yeah, and if you do speakers, you do you do powder coating, you're getting closer to the price, but I still, I mean, the LE pricing's mad now. It's just, and I think,
Wow.
and we'll cover this later on.
Yeah.
But I think Stern have definitely hit a ceiling. But we'll cover this on. I mean, that's the the other thing I've been doing in pinball this month is getting ready for the UK Open. In fact, you may not see it, but if I move my chair out of the way, just briefly. The place is a total mess because
I could do the exact same thing, unfortunately, and it's just a sad estate. It's Matt Vince has like decided to help me out though. I've literally like sold my entire collection of spares to him as
okay.
one job lot. I was gonna stick it on the forum, and I messaged him, and he goes, "I'll take the lot." And I was like, "Well, that saves me a lot of hassle sticking up multiple adverts because I was just like,
Yeah.
I've just got too much stuff."
Well, the I just got loads of bits and pieces that arrived. So I got like a big box of gaffer tape that we use to kind of tape stuff off. And there's so many little things when you're doing an event like that. And they just pile up and pile up. And every now and again, I kind of get a plastic box and clear them all out. So we got to clear out. And then obviously we've been testing games in here, and it's just incredible the amount of crap that builds up.
You can imagine what I go through.
Yeah,
I had 9 hinges, 9 sets of hinges. That's not 9 individual. That's 9 pairs of hinges, like 4 sets of legs, 6 lock bars. I literally had like 3 or 4 different plastic sets from different games. I just said to him, "You can have the lot." It was getting to the point where Holly was going to kill me. It's just too
actually,
much stuff.
I'll tell you one thing. If anyone needs any Stern armor, let me know, because I've basically bought. There's a guy in the US, Pinball Refinery, MI Pinball Refinery does beautiful powder coating,
Oh,
and
okay.
he did my Godzilla, and sorry, not my Godzilla. He did
Is it
my
airbrushing or powder coating that he's done?
powder coating.
Okay.
He did my. If you go to the Pinball Republic and you have a look at my Deadpool and Godzilla, no, not Godzilla, sorry, Jurassic Park, he's put the factory coating for the LE, so red sparkle on a bright red sparkle on Deadpool, and the dark
nice.
green on
Jurassic
Jurassic
Park.
Park,
Yeah.
and it looks stunning. He's one of these guys that takes pins and kind of spruces them up for people. Works with CoinTaker, and I was talking to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I could do some stuff for you." So we have a local guy here, but he's so difficult to deal with.
Is he?
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I email, so, the guy at Pinball Refinery, I email him and say, hey, I'm after this. He buys the pieces, he does the powder coating. So I brought back 2 boxes from Texas Pinball Festival last year. He's doing 4 for me this year at Expo, which we'll come to later. But so I've got loads of armor that if anyone wants it, I'm just going to take donations to uh, National Autistic Society. If anyone wants to claim any of it, drop me an email to neil@domino.org. I think I'm going to have about 6 sets
Wow, that's good.
of, and that's that's legs, lockdown bar, the 2 side bits, and hinges. Is that everything? I think, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Nice thing about the Stern stuff compared to the Bally, at least, or Bally Williams for that matter, is that it's not glued to the cab.
yeah, it just
Getting
looks
old
great.
rails off is just a nightmare on those.
Absolutely, it's a big difference. So yeah, so lots of bits for the UK Open. I just ordered the trophies today, and Bond's up and running, and yeah, it's been good. I've been traveling a lot. I went to Japan. Actually, I went to an arcade in Japan that had pinball machines.
Yeah, I
Which
remember you telling
I
me.
was amazed at.
Pirates of the Caribbean sat there in the top.
Yeah, but not a lot of pinball stuff otherwise. Just I've been so crazy busy at work. What about you? What else have you been doing pinball wise, Scott?
You know me, I'm always getting bored with my collection. So unfortunately, I've sold my fishtails. It's the wife's favourite, or one of her favourites. I'm not too particularly keen on the game, if I'm honest with you. I think it's a little bit simplistic. I think
Yeah.
it's fine as a 90s kind of pin, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather have something else filling its shoes. So I've been out hunting on games. Went and go see a Twilight Zone yesterday. It's an okay shape. I've put an offer down. He's considering it, but just like a lot of people, they don't show you the whole pictures online. So you see a couple of pictures and you go see it on site, and it's like, yeah, the legs look brown. and it's got rust everywhere and the corners. It's funny. I was talking to him about the condition, because a lot of people are like going, oh, here's the original. I've kept it as original as possible. And for me, I started talking to him, saying to him, I'm just not one for originality.
Yeah,
I don't. I'd rather it look mint and be a reproduction than have it be original and full of holes. And
yeah,
he gave me an analogy of a Ferrari. He said, well, if there was a hole in the bodywork of the Ferrari, you'd fill it. And I said, absolutely, I'd replace the panel. I
yeah.
said I would not be accepting a hole, even if it's vintage. To me, I want it to look good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you get I want it to look good, but I want it to look, some of these games to look modern in a modern era. So,
Absolutely.
and that's where we talked about this before there with the remakes, but can you imagine an Attack from Mars remake coming out with a plasma orange DMD? It just wouldn't make sense.
No.
So if every game I've ever had that's been a Williams or a '90s game, first thing I put in it is colored DMD. It just makes such a difference.
It's a go-to product, right? And I think it transforms it. As you say, it brings it. My goal's always been trying to make something more modern, whether that's like replacing mechs and how can I put it, like upgrading to LEDs. And we'll talk
Yeah.
about that, I suppose, in a moment, about the mod spotlight and that. But for me, I think it's just taking stuff and moving risk factors away as well. A lot of stuff is old and it will burn out the power driver board because it's like using like incandescents as an example.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Just the
it's
heat,
just a
and the
no-brainer.
energy it uses. I mean, it's
Yeah,
incredible.
exactly. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, new stuff. I mean, so actually, I'm gonna. I did buy 2 pinball machines this month.
Oh yeah, okay. Go on. What have
Yeah,
you got?
just only 2 this month. Actually, I bought
Only
3.
two.
Sorry, I'm going to tell a lie. I bought 3. So on eBay there was a Kiss, a Stern Kiss,
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that.
and I got it. I got it at like a ridiculously good price. It's in a tattoo shop in Edinburgh, actually, about a mile from where I used to live in Edinburgh. And actually,
Wow.
we're near, almost 10 minutes from an arcade I used to play at during lunchtime at school.
Probably was from that arcade, I bet.
Yeah. No, so I mean, it needs a bit of TLC, but like it's been in the window, so the decals have come off it. And it
Oh
looks
yeah,
clean.
typical fade. Yeah.
But I'm not nothing I'm worried about, and it's for UK Open. It's a great tournament game. Although I can't stand the
Mm.
music personally speaking, but and for the price, I thought, nah, I can't ignore it. So the guy who I dealt with, the guy who owns a tattoo shop, brilliant guy, and actually he was saying, "Oh, I want to come down to this event." I was like, "Sorry, it's sold out." Yeah, so I bought that, and then I got an insane heart attack moment. So as you know, I collect the older Stern games, so Quicksilver, Nine
Yeah.
Ball, etc., etc. There's and Actually, big shout out to James Reed at Majestic Pinball, who's redoing my cheetah right now. He's putting a new playfield in it for the UK Open, but I managed to get a game called Stars, which is probably one of Stern's first move away from electromechanical to electronic. It's a great game. It's a big competition game. It's got chimes in it, which, if you like the old electromechanical chimes, you'll love it. But at the same time, the guy I got it from, I happened to notice in the background of this picture, he had a dragon fist, which is an insanely rare Stern Electronics game.
So I'm not too aware on that one. So talk me through it. Why is it rare?
I think
Low
there's about,
quantity
I
made,
want
or
to
is it
say
just
there's
low
about
left?
250 of them ever made. I don't know the
Wow.
exact number, but it's also a phenomenal game.
So
And
I never understood that. How does that happen then? So it becomes a great game, but they only produced a small number. Was that because at the time it wasn't perceived as good, or was it just they just didn't have any money to make more? Or
I think it was a case of, I think at that time it was the 80s, and Stern Electronics Inc., as it was known, SEI. I think they started off well, and then I think basically there was so much competition back then. Gottlieb, Bally was separate coming from Williams. You had
sure.
Williams. There's just so many people making pinball machines, and I think they kind of struggled a little bit, and they were more. I think their pinball machines were what I would call um, more focused on the competition player than having fun, perhaps. And
Really,
Steve,
even back then, so they would
yeah,
still make
so
a focus around tournament play. Okay.
so Steve Kirk, who was one of their big designers, he designed Nine Ball and Meteor and a few other games. He actually ran the first American Pinball Association for competitions. And actually, if you look at my Nine Ball, it's got this sticker on it with a phone number that no longer works, saying "Call here for tournament info." And they came out with, they were one of the first to do an actual branded game, Ali, so based on Muhammad Ali, which is,
Oh yeah.
again, I've got one at Pinball Republic. You can play there. It's a great game. Anyway, Dragon Fist it's very rare. It's a stunningly brilliant game. It's got so much. I want another game. I want another game. I want another game. And I've actually managed to play it once in New York at an event. I was at New York, and I was in a competition. I didn't want to play in a competition. I just wanted to play Dragon Fist all night. Uh,
Walk me through it then, because I've never really got into these older
it's a
eras, right? I mean,
yeah.
what makes it good for you? Is it down to the shots? Is it down to the code? What is it that makes you
It's
say one more?
it's so in these games are very simple. It's pure pinball. It's pinball at its most purest form, and it's a drop target and spinner game. And I just love drop target spinner games. And in
Okay.
fact, if you look at all the Stern Electronics games, they're all drop target spinner games, and I love them. I just find
Is
them.
that like similar to like TNA then? Is that kind of thing? Would you
Yeah,
call that a drop target kind of game or?
yeah, I mean, TNA's got a bit more switches in it. But yeah, and also I don't think TNA links the spinner as well as Stern games do. So, for example, and I'll take stars as an example. You can go for stars and go for spinners, and in an old game, and there's like two or three strategies you can use on that game to get big points. And in a game of that era, it's just unheard of because if you're playing another game, there's usually one path to big points. If you play a Williams game of that era, like Firepower, there's one way of getting points on that. Whereas on some of the Stern Classics, there's two or three. So Meteor, you can go for the bonus rockets, or you can go for the spinner. But to do that, to go for the spinner, you've got to connect it with a drop target, and I just think there's just a tiny bit more thought in those games than other games of that era. And I think, you know, as competition pinball has got bigger and bigger and bigger, these sort of games have come out of the woodwork. I have to thank Pinbird for my love of these games, because they had a Meteor that I got to play, and I literally said to my wife, "Go play." There was another one in the public area. Go play it, and we both loved it. And then actually, Lee managed to find me one, a really nice one. It's again at Pinball Republic if you want to play it. So I just love. For some reason, I just love that games. Some people love the Bally Williams games. Some people love Gottlieb. Some people love Jersey Jack. For me, the Stern classics are superb. Anyway, and the thing is I got both of them. Let's just say I got both of them for under $5,000, and there'll be a lot of people like falling off their chairs, thinking, "How much?" And I mean that in a low sense, not in a high
Well,
sense.
if you say they're as rare as they are, then I imagine, it's a
And
definite
they're both
find.
beautiful. I'm hoping that they arrive in time for the UK Open, but it's 50-50 right now. But if not, they'll definitely be here for next year's one. But yeah, it's just it's great, and so yeah, so that, and then I bought a load of parts for Star Wars. Most people will be chuckling at this, but I bought a Star
The
Wars.
Stern Star Wars, is it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I hate the game. I think it's terrible. But it's a lot of people like it in
But is
competition.
that because like you've got a pro, or have you got a premium? What have you got?
I've got a pro, but to be honest with you, the premium's slightly better, no question
Because the
about it.
Hyperloop thing that
Yeah,
it's
the
got, right?
Hyperloop's cool,
Yeah.
but the thing I hate about it is the plunge. Right, you plunge, dead. You auto plunge, dead. It's just shit. It's like we've got this really good game, and we're going to screw up this little crap corner bit that happens to be the
Guns N'
player.
Roses got the same problem in my book.
Yeah,
I don't understand that plunge. Like, it's such a weak plunge as well, and it's like, what were you thinking when you designed that?
the plunge is your first contact with the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just don't know what they were thinking, and also, I could have a long rant about this, but I'll say it very quickly. Star Wars doesn't feel like to me you're in a Star Wars movie in the same way that Mando feels you're in a Mando episode. It's hard to explain, and probably everyone will be like, "This guy's a kook," which is fine. Um, but I just think for such a big
Do
IP,
you know what I was surprised at? Have you ever played it, the home pin version of Star Wars?
yes, I have. I have played it.
Yeah.
It's. I actually think as a Star Wars game that feels more like Star Wars.
It's weird, right? I played it and I was like, bloody hell, for a budget Stern pin, actually, it plays damn well. I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, I've played the Spider-Man home pin, which is also the same layout as the fashion one, Supreme.
Mm.
And I've played the Jurassic Park pin. The Jurassic Park pin is phenomenal. Actually, you could put that as a modern game, and people would love it.
Yeah, other than the postage stamp LCD,
Yeah,
I do wonder sometimes with Stern. It's like that price of that screen. What would it cost them to put like an extra 2-3 inches in that? Do
$10,
you know what I mean? Just
mate.
yeah,
$10.
exactly.
It's a
Can't
joke.
be a lot.
It's a joke, but that's they're trying to make it look different, and one way you can make it look very different. But I think there's a guy on Pinside who's actually modded it to take a normal
I
Stern
can imagine it's quite
back
easy,
box,
right?
and
Yeah,
it's just LVDS, plug, bang, you're good to go.
exactly.
It's all Spike 2, I think. The whole system's Spike 2. Yeah, so and then I bought a load of bits for Star Wars that Brad he's got it at home testing it ahead of the UK Open. So shaker motor, lights, inside of Connect bits, plastic protectors, all the usual stuff that you stick on a game.
Yeah,
And a big thanks to Brad. He's doing that with Tron as well. Just getting it
do
ready.
like that game actually. You mod that right, it definitely really does shine.
Yeah, I bought this one off Kevlar, and he already done a lot of great work to it. It looks beautiful.
Mm.
I haven't played it yet, but I saw a video of Brad playing it, and it looks absolutely lovely. And I mean, taking us into mods, and actually Tron's one of those games where a lot of people like to mod it to look like the LE with the lit ramps and the bikes,
Yeah,
a bunch of other stuff. The little arcade Tron game. But I find the mod world just incredible, and what I'm finding, um, Scott, is the amount of detail and money going into some mods that I look at it and think, crikey, that's pricey. But when you get it, you think you can see where the money's gone.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's not easy making mods. I should know because I've got some back burner stuff that I'm doing in the background, which I'm not ready to show yet before you ask. But I've had a couple of people asking me to make toppers of all things. And I've got things planned for a couple of games. One of them's nearly finished. And I've got servo motors and everything in it. It's going to be
Awesome.
mental when that's finished. But yeah, it even built out like the platform because my neighbor thankfully has a CNC router. So we did a lot of trial and error building out different things. But yeah, when the time is right, I'll reveal that. But yeah, on to what I feel like is a good spotlight to talk about, and we briefly touched upon it at the beginning. Is effectively I mentioned incandescence and said to you, like, you know, burnouts from power driver boards. For me, at least, I'm not a fan of incandescence. I know there's a lot of purists out there who absolutely will swear by them, and they'll say, no, the only way to produce a game from that era, 80s, 90s, it's like even early 2000s, incandescence has got to be the way it goes because that's just how the game was built. But my counter argument to that would be if those manufacturers had access to LEDs and colored LEDs, more important, to, like, you know, enhance inserts or create the right saturation, stuff like that, 110% they would have done LEDs.
No question.
Thankfully, you know, there are problems, as you know, putting in like LEDs. If you just do it as is, you're going to get things called ghosting. That's where the light will still emit even when it's not powered, because basically LEDs versus incandescents require a lot less voltage to operate. So obviously it reduces the power consumption. That's going to lead to better power efficiency on your power driver board. So it's not going to be taxed as high, or hopefully last longer. For me, at least, you just have to get past it by putting in basically mods to fulfill the gap around the ghosting and the fade, because there's two things I suppose that happen with LEDs. One, they're instantaneous when they light, typically in a, let's call it a standard setup with no mods. So you lose that kind of, I would say, fade in and fade out that some games that will animate, especially during what they call their attract mode, which is when they're powered on. There are a couple of mods out there that address this issue. So you've got Comet, who make LED OCD and GI OCD. They split the boards out. So one effectively handles the inserts inside the playfield, that's LED OCD. And then the other board, which is GI OCD, handles the global illumination, which is basically the lighting around the playfield, typically that stays on all the time. Now, both of those boards, unfortunately, because of I find since COVID and probably the silicon shortage, the price of those boards have jumped considerably. The investment is somewhere in the region of £300 to $300, depending on where you buy them. So those really expensive
They
just
were
to get
going
those
for
two.
about 100 at one point, weren't they?
Yeah, they were pretty reasonable. And back when I first started, you could get them for 80, 90. So they've more or less doubled.
I remember I imported a bunch of them for the forum. I did a group buy, and they were nowhere near. Yeah, they were about $100 each.
Yeah, they've definitely jumped, and maybe it's probably since Comet's acquired them, and then they've had to find supply chains to meet demands. But thankfully, we've got somebody in the UK who builds basically these afterglow kits. So his name's Stumbler. You probably recognise the name from, especially from Godzilla. So he did like the Neon Tokyo sign. Done many other different mods like his Lollipop GI and Pop Bumper lollipops. They're all really good, to be honest with you. Every mod he makes puts a lot of effort and thought into trying to solve a problem. In fact, I have you one of the boards. For those of you actually on the camera, can probably see them, but that's an insert board from Stumbler. So this will work in both Bally and in SAM, I think of the term. So basically the early Stern boards. It's just done via a simple dip switch. The one thing I like about Stumbler's boards versus, say, the Comet ones, because I've used both, I would say Comet gives you the ability to load profiles, and you can then interrogate the board and say, right, I've got it for this game, and you can then tweak the settings, do individual dimming for certain switches and stuff like that, or certain switches, certain inserts, let's call it that. While I'd say Stumbler's is more plug and play. And I find if you don't do any configuration on the Comet boards and you do a comparison between Stumblers and Comet, I'd say Stumblers are better. And on top of that, they're cheaper, at least in the UK. But yeah, I've fully endorsed the product, to be honest with you. For me, at least, every machine I build, whether it's for me or someone else, I push them and say, it's a go-to product to have. You have to have it, because otherwise spend all this money restoring it. You put new like decals on the cabinet, you restore the things and dents, you put new playfield in, you new shiny nuts and screws and plastics and everything like that, and then you get to the lighting and it's flashing. And some people won't notice it. You really do have to look. Some games I would say show it more than others. Like Lord of the Rings is a very good example. If you don't have, I would say LED OCD in that, or Afterglow in that, then you are definitely going to be missing out. Another game is Creature from the Black Lagoon in the 90s era. 100% it's a must-go product in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, I had LCD. In fact, I think the Theatre Magic I gave you had an LCD OCD board in it, and I had it in Spider-Man because Spider-Man's got this. The original Stern Spider-Man has got the modes. The light gets brighter depending on how far you've got in the mode.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you didn't have it, you didn't know how far you're in. I have to say, though, I am one of those people that doesn't really notice it.
There are some, as I say, like you show them in front of them, they're like,
I
don't see a
can't see a
difference.
difference. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the only time I have seen a difference is with Spider-Man. But again, look, everyone loves a great light show in a pinball machine. It's one of the things. It's especially you're watching if you're watching a tournament and they've got a downward camera and you see it spinning, you really start to notice the whole show and the effort that they put into the shows. And even with today's modern LEDs, thinking of Godzilla right now. The whole playfield is alive and telling you what to do. And if you
absolutely.
look at it, it's absolutely incredible to see. And the amount of effort that they must go into code that is insane. But yeah, I mean, look,
there are some games even I find, to be honest with you, if you do Incandescence as an example, Adam's Family, I know it's not your favorite game, but if you do Incandescence on that game, the GI is really sparse on the playfield.
Yeah.
So when you go and put something like Incandescence in it, it's so dark. Some areas are pretty much pitch black.
Absolutely.
I find, don't get me wrong, like it's down to people's preference, right? You can do Sunlight White, which is basically a bulb that mimics that of an incandescent light. I prefer Frosted White. Definitely in the Frosted White camp. I used to do Clear White, but you can get blinded by the LEDs at that point. Yeah. I think Frosted basically means it becomes an opaque lens. So the light basically diffuses through that opaque lens, and it creates better, I would say, less glare. Because you can be absolutely blinded by LEDs if you don't watch it.
Yeah, Ghostbusters springs to mind. If you ever look at that game during multi-ball, my God, it's like it flashes and the multi-ball starts. You're like, where the hell's the ball? Because
you can have an epileptic fit.
Your eyes are like blown out. I mean, I've got the Tokyo mode. I have to say, I kind of moaned at Dave about the Tokyo mode because it is very Tokyo, but the game goes to London, it goes to New York. And I think,
oh yeah, I kind of forget about that. Yeah.
I kind of wanted them to do like a more not a non-Tokyo one, but more
like a more neutral city.
Yeah, but to be honest, I ended up putting the Tokyo mod, and it looks stunning.
It is, yeah.
He sent me one, and it's great. And actually, tune into Pinball Expo in Chicago. Dave and I were Dave's doing a presentation on how he does mods and Stumbler mods, and then I'm doing a presentation right after him on how we kind of a bit of an update on Pinball Republic because we had a flood since we last presented. and
oh really? I didn't know that.
No, this was at the start of the year.
Okay.
It could have been worse than it was. It was bad enough, but just doing an update, really just to keep the name of what's going on. I volunteered to do a presentation just to make it, a bit more international at Pinball Expo. It's a great show. So I'm also covering a bit about, how do we put the UK Open together, some of the challenges and pain points. I
can imagine it's a lot of work.
Yeah, just half an hour, and Dave's not a public speaker, so I'm working with him to help him out on that. I'm really looking forward to it because he's such a good guy. We were both at Texas, and we had a right old laugh there, and he won the Twippy, which was great to see.
Yeah.
Kind of jumping. I mean, so jumping out the other mod I wanted to talk about is, and if you're on YouTube, you'll see it above my head, which is the Bond top art. And let me just talk a bit more about Bond. We're going to do this in segments, but I think I'll cover the whole lot. So Bond, there's two Bonds, there's 007 and then there's a 60th 007. I've got both of them. And the 0060 it comes with the same topper that you can buy now for the regular Bond. And I have to say, it's one of their best toppers. I'm very impressed by it. You see it flashing above my head right now. And what's cool about it is the guys working on the two games. So it's two different software teams. They've kind of got the most out of it in different ways, which is kind of cool. And Bond 60th is a bit more of an old school pinball machine, and they light it like an old school pinball machine versus the modern guys have lit it like a
Okay,
modern
so
one.
it recognizes the different, I suppose, game and then
I
displays
don't know.
based on what it's connected to. Or?
Yeah, I don't know if it recognizes it or if it's in the code of the core game, but it behaves very differently. So if you put them together,
Yeah.
they don't. It's not like they're doing the same thing. I mean, they've only got, obviously got only a few parts that light up, but just the way that they've coded it's different. It's super impressive. I'd say, I think one of Stern's best toppers. Is solid.
So on that then, how do you think that compares to, say, the Black Knight topper? Because that to me was their best.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean,
And I know you've got one.
yeah, I mean, you can maybe hear it moving. I mean, the Black Knight topper is it's kind of it's comedic because it's almost Steve Ritchie's been built into the game.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to beat Steve Ritchie, especially humor wise. The guy's just freaking hilarious. I love him to bits.
Yep.
So they've kind of built a little bit of Steve into that game that'll be forever. So I think that they do two things in different ways. But they're both fantastic toppers. I mean, the Mando topper is very good as well with the kind of floating screen on it. But
See, to me, that I know for you probably money's no object when it comes to a topper, but it's a lot of money. Like
it's crazy
the
money.
part,
It's crazy
yeah. I
money.
mean, like I thought, like again, it feels like Stern's taken an attitude with toppers. I'd say that they're almost like watches. They've created rarity, not just because they want to keep the numbers down, but I feel they want to keep the prices high. So they say, okay, we're only going to make 250 of these or whatever it happens to be, and then I used to think 500 was a lot for a topper. And now we're at the realm of 2000. It's definitely getting to a point where I think toppers costing as much as a pinball machine, which is
Yeah,
pretty expensive.
yeah. I mean, look, if I look at Deadpool, so I bought the topper for Deadpool when it came out. It was 400 quid. In fact, $400. The
Yeah,
same topper is now 700,
it's
and
insane.
it's nuts. But I think I'll be honest with you. In my take on that, in Stern, I'm going to defend Stern, which I'm used to doing. In a pinball world full of haters, but um, part of the reason why I think they charge so much money is because they can't build enough of them. So if you're building, you're going to get. Let's look at Godzilla, right? You're going to for that game, you're going to get thousands of people wanting the topper. They can
Sure.
probably build 500 of them, maybe 600 of them, because they're on the same production line. They're building games, right?
Hmm.
What do you do? Well, to get the most out of it, we're going to jack the price up. And they know that they've got demand. So, yeah, there's a bit of cash grab there, but there's also a bit of actually the reason we're pricing this high is to take some of the customers out of the picture deliberately.
I mean, it's a shame because I prefer Chicago Games' approach with that, where it's like the topper is included with the LE, and I feel
Yeah,
like rather than turning around and maybe selling people I mean, like, there's two ways around of doing it, right? Because I know even Chicago Games ran into trouble with when they said, "Oh, everybody can have the topper," and then they had to create this
yeah, that
SD Plus
pissed
model,
me
and that
off actually.
I can imagine it did, right? Because there's some people who's got an LE, it's like, well, that's made my game less valuable now because everyone else can get it. But I think there's probably a better way of doing it. Pulp Fiction to me, like that's again a
Yeah,
great example of an amazing topper. It's like I feel like Stern, you can charge that money, and maybe they'll listen to this podcast or not. But like for me, it's like if you're gonna go and charge that money, you've got to move away from plastic.
yeah,
It's got to be something that's 3D molded, and I feel like it is definitely within their skill set to do it. I've seen it within like well, early days of Black Knight. I've seen it, for instance, with Elvira's topper. Again, that was a great example of a good topper. And I know you've mentioned the Mando topper again. It's definitely got realms of three dimensions to it. I think what I don't want to see is basically Lexan plastics
the
or
Avengers
plexi
topper,
plastic.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. With just
I mean,
lights behind
I
it.
mean, what I'll tell you is the Bond topper is brick solid. It's made of metal. It's not. I mean, it feels like the Avengers topper feels like you could, it's flimsy as hell.
Sure.
Turtles as well is a bit flimsy.
Jurassic Park springs to
Jurassic
mind of being a
Park,
disappointing topper as
yeah.
well.
I mean, but let me tell you, the Bond topper feels like it. It almost feels like you've got your money's worth. Not quite, but it's a lot
Sure.
closer. And the weight, you can when you pick it up, it's like holy shit, this thing weighs a ton. Same with the Mando topper.
I don't mind paying a premium for a topper. I'm quite happy to put down like 1,000 or 1,500 for one. I think if it's the right topper, just because it's going to add dimensions to the game. I love toppers. I like it when they animate. I want them to be able to do something. I just think if it's just a bunch of lights and it's a static bit of plastic in the behind it, to me it
Yeah, it's
doesn't
not.
add much.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
all.
mean, and for that, that's why I still think the Attack from Mars topper, even though the alien just wiggles, it's just so well done. It just cracks. Even like having had the game 4 years now, it still makes me laugh when it goes off.
No, you should see the stuff I'm coming up with, the games. And these are games that are designed as if for Bally Williams era. So I'm having to be a bit smart in how I get it to integrate back into the code
Yeah,
effectively.
yeah,
But
tricky.
it is tricky. But I want it to do more than just light up. I want
Yeah,
it to
yeah.
interact with a mode, or I want it to interact with
Which
something that's going on in the game.
yeah, which I think everyone wants. I mean, and then just kind of build moving on from the topper. So, um, new code came out for James Bond.
Mm.
2 new updates that have transformed the game. Let me tell you, if you've played this game, if you played Bond before the last month, and you've probably thought, "What a terrible game," and you're probably right to think that. And to be fair, but the last code update that's brought the Bond girls in has just made this game hugely addictive. I was
Oh, so
talking.
they added the Bond girls in. I was wondering when they were going to finally do that.
Well, they're there. They've been on the playfield for a while, but
Sure.
if you hit the shot, they didn't do anything. The way that they've done it, where you can kind of, it's risk reward. It's stunning. Mike Vinicor and I forget the other guy who's helping Mike out, but those two guys have really nailed the code, and they have absolutely transformed Bond into what many people thought was the bottom tier of Stern games, right to the top tier. So naysayers, Bond, there was a lot of noise about Bond because the launch was a bit of a pig's ear, but it
Sure.
is a superb game now, and as a massive Bond fan, it's made my day, and there's still some challenges with it, like it doesn't have the music in it, which I would love to have seen. I'd love to have seen Goldfinger play during Goldfinger multi-ball, but paying for Shirley Bassey to sing on a pinball.
I can imagine there's a licensing
That's
issue with that,
exactly it.
right? Yeah. It's a shame when that
And
happens.
then
It's like,
this
it is what it is, though.
yeah, and in the 60th again, they did a great job on that. It's a simpler game, so the code's a lot simpler, so they got it finished quickly. But I have to say, pretty pleased about that. And before we move on from there, so the other big talking point this month, for a couple of reasons, was Twilight Zone. And let me just to make something really clear, I don't like Twilight Zone. So whenever I mention Twilight Zone, I'm having to go to the game and not anything else. And many of you know that and pointed it out to me. But there's a big rumor about it being remade.
Yes. And I
Scott,
think, to be honest with you, like you only have to look at the way things have been hinted at. So if you look at Protetti as an example, right, and they're doing, for instance, the Whirlwind 2.0 kit, look at the back glass, and there's a pyramid on there or an eye.
yeah,
That wasn't in Whirlwind.
yeah,
I think just like if you look at the way, I mean, like Stern did it all the time, right? They used to add Easter eggs into their games. When the next game would come because a bit of it would be in that game. I
yeah,
think Godzilla was Easter egged in another game, wasn't it? I can't remember
yeah.
which one it was. Was it Turtles? I think it was,
I
right?
think it was, yeah.
Yeah. So you just have to like look at the hints that are being dropped around, and basically, I'm betting good money on it. I think they're definitely got the license. I think if you listen to the way the conversations that have been had around Chicago games and saying how they don't think there's much of a future left in remakes, and they've only got like certain titles they think they're going to go for. I think what's happened here is other people have decided to take up the chalice and said, right, okay, I'm going to make a remake based on a 90s theme. So 100% expect to see a remake Twilight Zone, and my money's on it being from Prodetti. But we'll see what happens, basically. I personally, I know you're not a big fan of the game. I think it got a lot of toys underneath the hood. For me, we're definitely different styles of people when it comes to what makes a game interesting. For me, it's like building the world under the glass and having tons of toys and different mechs and diverters and stuff like that. I don't mind when a game breaks flow, personally. And I know a lot of people will be exactly opposite to that. They'll be like, anything that breaks flow for me is not a fun experience. I mean, Elvira, House of Horrors, it breaks flow. You go into the house, you start mode, she starts talking about it. But for me, it's an interlude, really,
Yeah,
to the
I
next
don't mind
section.
that. I think the thing that I get frustrated about Twilight Zone, there's a lot that you can't see what's going on.
True, it's a packed game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that little
absolutely.
flipper at the top just drives me berserk. I mean, in terms of, does it feel like you're in the Twilight Zone? Yeah, I do think it does. I'm
Yeah,
not.
it's
I
got a
mean,
lot of moments in there.
I'm not a massive wide body fan either, which probably doesn't help it. But yeah, it's like anything else. I don't like Chicken. Why? I just don't like it. I don't like Twilight Zone. Why? I just don't like it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. But I know it is a well loved game. Old Tux, I think it's his favorite game.
Some people argue it's like the best game,
Yeah,
but I don't think it's there. I think it's definitely in my top 10. And I definitely want to have one. I think like I think it suffers from being a wide body. Like
yeah,
I used to think wide body. I think to myself when I first started, why doesn't everybody just build a game in wide body? Because you can put more on the playfield. But then I realized the geometry of it, at least, it affects the
yeah,
flow. I've not really seen a very fast wide body. Maybe Star Trek Next Generation, but I
yes,
think like it kind of likes to hug the outlanes as well.
yeah,
If you make a shot wrong, it's
yeah.
like, oh, there it goes out the outlane. It's hard to make a fast flowing wide body. Maybe Judge Dredd, maybe it's
Mm.
hard. Again, it doesn't really feel like
So
it's getting
much in the
fast to
way,
the flipper.
just so much on the playfield as well. My take on, I don't think I've found a wide body that I'd want to hold on to, except for some of the older.
Not a fan of Indiana Jones, then?
Nah, it's well, sorry. I think Indiana Jones is okay, but I find after a while the game's so repetitive. There's so little to it. I just get bored of it pretty quickly. It's
No,
a
I can get
beautiful
that.
looking game, and
Oh, it is.
when
Yeah.
someone does a proper restore, I think you've done one.
Yeah.
When you see one that's been done, it looks stunning. Matt had one in the club for a while, but I kind of tire of it a little bit. That the thing that you hear is the machine gun of the plane every 5 seconds. It drives me potty, but I don't know of a. I mean, I try and find an example of a wide body game that I love to play, and there's not many of them, I would say. But
It sounds like you're struggling to find one.
I have to say, if Pedretti are rebuilding this, my hat's off to them because that is no mean, simple feat to do.
I worry for the cost, I must
Yeah,
admit, because that
even
game's pretty packed.
even just the complexity of it. And if you look, I don't know if you've seen, there's a video of, I think there's a video on YouTube, but I was there. So at TPF, Butch from CGC went through in huge detail all of the things that they are doing to, what's the word, to improve Cactus Canyon. So they've completely redesigned the drop target mechs. They've added art where art was missing. It's literally a 1 hour presentation of all the little things that they've done.
Which is how it should be, right? I think that's what I like about Chicago games. They're not just saying, all right, we'll just pull the same parts list and put it all together. They're trying to find new solutions to old problems and saying, right, how can we make this more bulletproof? So hats off to them for that. I'm very much looking forward to my Cactus Canyon whenever it may arrive.
Yeah. I mean, that is a bit of a sore point for both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time it arrives, I probably won't want it. But
It's the worry, right? There's so many other games coming out. By that point, it's like, will it have a spot left
yeah,
in your lineup?
and look, I love the CGC guys. They make great games, but they've got to do better at telling people what's going on.
There needs to be just a bit of clarity, I
this,
think. I
this
mean, for people's context, in the UK here, we've been waiting for a very, very long time for
must be 2 years
ILEs.
almost, is it?
Yeah, maybe breaching on 3 at this point, but
I remember.
there's no transparency over, unfortunately, lead times on when they may arrive. There's rumors
I
that it
mean,
could be as little as 6 weeks or as much as 3 months.
yeah, I mean that's
So,
just it's for a 10 grand thing. It just feels a bit ridiculous. I mean, and the reason I bought it was Lyman was doing this special code, which there's some question mark as to if that's coming, when it's coming. I spoke to Josh Sharp, who was involved in working with Lyman on it. He's determined to get it out there. He's just not got a plan for it yet now. So, but hopefully we'll see it.
I hope so.
Well, put it this way: if the Lyman code, if they say it's not coming, I suspect I'll sell mine pretty quickly.
Is that because you think the code's just going to be too simplistic for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've finished off the code that wasn't finished from when it originally came out, which is
Sure.
it's not a terrible game, but actually, Mike Parkins, what the guy who helps us run Pinball Republic, and he runs Medway. He's got a CCC, Cactus Canyon Continued, and when you've played that, there's so much more to it. The Cowboys versus Aliens and a bunch
Yeah.
of other stuff that's in that. That's pretty cool. I think to go back to the base code is, I just think I'll play it for a bit and then I'll be like, well, I've done that. What's next? And it's not got the same. I don't think Cactus Canyon's got the same. I want another game that like Medieval or Monster Bash has. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're probably right. Out of those 3, at least, Medieval is probably going to be the one that you'd want to keep if you had a CGC remake.
But I mean, I really hope Pedret, if you're listening, you need to make sure that you're not just building the same game. So here's the one thing I'd be looking at: the freaking clock on Twilight Zone. I don't know, the go-to error message I always see is clock not working or clock issue or
It's
that.
very common, let's face it, for a
Yeah.
Twilight Zone to have a credit dot.
So they
100%.
they need to face into that and probably you know I'd like to see how they do more with a Powerball.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a
Well, they've
great
proved that
idea.
they can do their own code, right? And they can do their own
Yeah.
animations. So maybe they can do a little bit of a new spin on it, just as much as they've done like 2.0 code with Whirlwind and
Yeah.
Funhouse and so forth. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
be interesting.
I played I think I played the remake of Funhouse, but Funhouse is another game that but yeah, look, look. I mean, anything that people are doing with pinball is great news, but yeah, Twilight Zone's not it's not high up on my list of glorious games. I have to say. The only Pat Lawler game I like is dialed in, but yeah, I mean, moving on. Let's. I mean, kind of bouncing around a little bit here, but the other thing is, hearing lots of rumors about Pinball Brothers and them bringing out something after Queen. You heard?
Yeah, I mean, like I'd say everyone's going to be a bit surprised by this one, but I think like they're going to look forward to the next release. They might actually want it.
Good.
So I can't really say much more than that. All I can say is that from what I've seen, at least, it's on my list.
Okay. Cool.
And I feel like, yeah, if they, for me at least, one thing they desperately need to work on are their flippers.
Yeah.
They still lack an end of stroke switch, which I know they say they do it via software and it handles the same thing, but at least with my Alien, and I had both the standard edition and the LV, if you just as much put a little bit too much pressure on the flipper when it was in the up position to try and drop catch, the flipper would go down. It needed that end stroke switch to say, hey, I need to stay, that hold power needs to stay up so that you can basically catch that ball as it's coming down towards
You
you.
get a bit of that with TNA that's got the same issue, but on TNA you don't notice it so much because the balls, it's such a small play field in
Yeah.
that top bit. It's you kind of, and again Scott's tweaked it. I think he's got a happy medium, but and of course I mentioned Jaws. So Jaws Super Limited Edition is coming. I have told Phil I want one.
And there you are saying there's a ceiling to these games, but I've said this to you before, Neil. When it comes to Stern and price ceilings, I honestly think, given the right license, there isn't one.
Yeah, I agree.
I just don't think there is one. Like, if you get the right license and you do it right, and it's got the right designer and the right artist behind it, the sky's the limit.
And you kind of think, if, knowing that, why are they doing Rush? Where there's games sitting in warehouses still, LEs.
I think they just misunderstood the market. I think, like, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, I think in the decision tree, let's call it, at Stern, that probably go, when I was young, Rush was great, and that's a good license to have. And there's definitely a balancing act, because you look at, then they swing the other way and they release something like Venom, and the demographic in that pinball go, what's Venom? I don't know what Venom is. And it's like, oh, is it that guy that was in Spider-Man 3 or something? It's like, a lot of people won't know who Venom is, and I don't think it resonated with them.
Yeah,
it's a difficult balancing act.
I'm a big comic book kid, and Venom was not. I remember seeing it, but it wasn't one you naturally gravitated towards. The movies were okay; they weren't great, but the Venom game looks amazing. Looks so fast. I can't wait to play it.
I would have liked one. I'll be honest with you. I think the difficulty for me is that, given a choice of having another fan layout game by Brian Eddy, and I love his stuff. I loved Stranger Things, and it's the one game I keep telling you I regret getting rid of it. I shouldn't have sold it. I will get one back. I think if I had a choice though between Venom and Stranger Things, it would be Stranger Things.
Yeah, So I spoke to a friend of mine who's played it, and his feedback was, because the ball's moving so fast, much faster than anything else, the fact that it's a fan layout makes it more enjoyable to play, because you're not having to think too hard about where the shots are.
I think the fast lock's what threw me off, because when I was watching Twitch streams, I was following the ball with my eye, and then suddenly there's a ball appearing by his flipper, and I was like, oh crap. It's because before the ball's even hit the lock, it spat out the ball and said, here you go, deal with this. And don't get me wrong, that's a very clever, innovative mech. I think that's very clever. I just, for someone of my average skill set, I think I'd struggle with it. I really would.
Yeah, no, like I say, I think part of the reason that the playfield's simple is because the ball's going so fast.
So fast.
And look, Brian Eddy's no idiot of making pinball games, so
no.
I'm looking forward to the codes earlier. I have to say I'm a bit nervous about all this kind of RPG type code.
See, I'm in the opposite camp. I think that's a great thing. I like the idea of being able to have progression in a game. I think we didn't touch on it, but maybe I'd like to hear your views on Jurassic Park and what you thought of the new code update there as well.
Yeah, I like the progression stuff. I'm a big video gamer, but I'm not sure if it works in pinball. But I'm open to it. In Jurassic Park, a bit of a shock to everyone that they've done a 30th. Sure. I have to say, my first reaction to it was the bastards.
It's the fact it's another LE. Exactly. I think that was a little bit of a kick in the teeth to anybody who's an LE earner. Because I had an LE, and I'm not going to lie, I'm glad I got rid of mine before this one arrived, because I 100% think it would have affected the value of what I would have got for it.
But it's one of the Godzilla LEs. It's one of the Stern LEs that is actually fairly LE. There's only 500 of them.
Sure.
Whereas today's LE, there's 1,000 of them. Or Monster Bash was 1,250, or Cactus Canyon's 1,250, or there are typically 1,000 of them. So when you've got one that's 500, I'm like, okay, this is a little bit special. Sure. And now effectively there's another 500. However, it is a different LE, so I don't know. I don't know.
Kind of goes on to that view of what you were talking about, the Super LE for Jaws,
right? Yeah,
I know. I think that Stern is probably testing the waters, I think, on releasing effectively 4 different types of a game. That's what it's going to be.
I don't know if they'll do that for everything, because the pain...
With the right license, they will.
Yeah, maybe. You're right. They did it with Batman. They've done it with Elvira. So it's not impossible. But I think, my take on the 30th year edition is, well, look, they've got a great. First of all, Jurassic Park is just a great game. It's tough. It's frustrating.
It's a very hard game.
Very difficult game. I mean, I nearly sold mine. If it wasn't for Pin Clash, I probably would have sold it actually. So because I had to learn how to play it, I found it.
I couldn't get anywhere on it. That's why I had to sell it. I think I barely got up the playfield.
And actually, I think you might be regretting that, Scott, because now they've got this.
They got the co-op play.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. So I noticed in the code updates, they said there's 150 new callouts. Is that now with voice actors from the movie, or is it just simply Stern voice actors again?
No, I think it's the regular voice acting group.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I mean that is the downside. Apart from Nedry, that is the downside of that game. It has very limited assets.
So I would have thought, that would have been a real announcing the whole 30th thing, and then surprising everyone saying, "Hey, we've managed to acquire a lot of the movie assets effectively."
I mean, I think that would be great. But I'm just kind of happy that they've cracked open the code for a game that probably most people thought was done and dusted.
Oh, I mean, it's a very unheard of thing. Let's face it. I mean, I hope they do something similar with Stranger Things. If I'm honest with you, I don't know if they might, because I remember Netflix interviewed the directors of Stranger Things. I should say they were like, "Oh, when we release new seasons, will you do code updates?" And they were like, "No, we don't do that." and and I was like thinking, well, maybe they might. Maybe this time when they hopefully, because obviously the rumor is they'll do another run. Maybe that will tie in with season 5 when it comes out, and maybe they'll do a whole Vecna kind of code update.
I don't know. I think it's with the inserts. I think that's tricky, but
and let's face it, the Demogorgon in the center is a bit difficult. Yeah,
we'll see what happens. But I mean, it's great that they've done it. The co-op mode and the versus modes look great. They've redesigned Nedry, so it makes the game a little bit easier. In fact, I'd say it makes it quite a lot easier. You can easily get what I would say two extra balls, unreally extra balls of ball saves.
Okay.
I like what.
So they made the game a little bit more friendly then, as a result.
For sure, 100%, for sure. Because you always had the ball save on this side, the escape. You've now got it on the other side, and I've said freaking Nedry so many times at that game because it used to be the thing that you heard when the ball went. So I mean, I kind of think they definitely made the game a bit more accessible, no question about it. And I think they've got this thing where if you get 3 things in a mode, you get this extra bonus, which I think is really cool. They've done a couple other tweaks to it that I think are all very positive. But and the team play looks great. I think that'd be a lot of fun. In fact, I'm considering doing a kind of Jurassic Park team event at the club because we've got one there. Pull together 10 teams and see who can put up the best score. I think it could be a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great surprise that they've done this. The artwork looks great. I actually like the kind of copper color that they've put on the.
I think the product looks great, and I think if I hadn't already had an LE, I would have definitely gone for that. It looks more, to me at least, it feels like it's better than the LE.
Yeah,
which is probably, as I say, a little bit sour for everyone else who has an LE at the moment.
I do think that of all the Jurassic Parks, the one the art that looks the best is the premium one. It's just bizarre.
Oh, that's weird, right? I was in the same camp.
Side is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, well played for Stern for doing that, and a lot of naysayers think they would be charging for the code, or the code would only work on one version. To be clear, the code that runs on the 30th edition LE is exactly the same code that runs on the LE, and it's exactly the same code that runs on the premium. There's nothing that separates them, so you're getting all the feature functionality. My take is I think we'll probably see maybe 1 or 2 other versions of this. Maybe an Iron Maiden live edition was always the thing I thought you might see, where they redo Iron Maiden, but they use the live music rather than the pre-recorded music. Of course, if they did Iron Maiden right, they'd do a disco version, which would sell like hotcakes.
Sure, Neil.
So yeah, I mean, let's kind of move on a little bit. I think we've done. Sorry, let's talk. So we mentioned Jaws, and it's definitely. There's no doubt it's coming now. I think it'll be out for CES. So
Do you
January.
think, though, on Jaws, because
Yeah.
I always heard the rumor was they may not have access to the full set of assets. Do you think they've managed to secure, like, for instance, the music, the actors?
There's no way they can release Jaws without the music.
Yeah, I hope
I,
not.
I mean, I just can't. I mean, they would get panned. I mean, no one would buy it. Look, do they have Roy Schneider? We're going to need a bigger boat.
It needs that line.
If they don't, if they've got some kind of halfway, we're going to need a bigger boat. Then they'll just
If it's with all due respect to the Americans, but if we hear some weird twang that goes, "Hey, we're going to need a bigger boat," I don't want that. I must admit, I want it original. I hope to God they've done that.
I know for a fact that Jaws, the way that it's licensed, the way that the movie was licensed, makes it a little bit easier for them to get all the assets. Like modern day films, there's all these complexity of different licenses within the movie, and it's one of the things where you see Star Wars. When you license Star Wars, you kind of get it all because they've got it all. Whereas,
so talk me through. What do you think is going to be in this Super Ellie? What do you think is going to make you go, "Hey, I don't care what the number is, I'm going to buy it"?
There's going to be a shark.
You think it's going to be a big shark coming out of the side of it or something?
No, I don't know. I don't know what's going to be in the Super Ellie. I guess there'll be a topper, right?
That is an opportunity for them to turn around and say, "Hey, you know what? We're going to include the topper in this edition." And I don't mind that as approach if it's done right.
The last proper SLE was Batman, and it came with a topper, and
That's true.
It's an amazing topper. So I'm hopeful that the topper's in there. I'm hopeful
it'd have to be a shark fin, right? Or maybe the mouth coming out or something.
Kind of moves along. Right? We need,
yeah.
I don't know, something like this, basically. You only see this on the.
That's it. It's got to be like, or maybe even like it attacks a boat and the boat gets pulled down. It's just some animatronics, but
definitely.
You know what I mean?
I also think there needs to be a small dash of cheese. Because if you watch the movie, it is a bit cheesy, right?
Of course it is.
There's certain elements of cheese, but they've got to get the three main characters on the boat. If they don't have a lot of call-outs from them, I'll be disappointed.
Do you think they're going to base it on any of the sequels, or they'll just focus on just the original film?
I hope just the original.
I hope so too. If I'm honest,
there was a rumor kicking about that it was Jaws 3, which was the worst of all the movies, I think.
I was going to say, it's not going to be a Toy Story, is it? Where they just pick on the worst film out of the entire, this time quadrilogy or whatever.
I'm hoping that pinball manufacturers have learned that that's a bad idea from Toy Story 4. It's a big IP. I hope Stern do it justice. I kind of feel for the designers of some of these big IPs, because if they get it wrong, they become.
I know that they absolutely, I suppose, have to find the balance between getting approval from the licensor and obviously they've got their bill of materials. They have to build within a certain price bracket, so they can't always do what they imagine. I imagine so. It is definitely a difficult challenge. I just hope that, given the title and the respect that license needs, they need to throw everything they can at it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a big, the other big license that everyone talks about is Back to the Future.
That one, as I said to you, I think honestly, right now, if that was an Ellie at 20, as in $20,000 or £20,000,
yeah, they'd sell a lot.
It would still sell.
Yeah,
entirely.
I think you're right, mate. I think you're absolutely spot on. I know.
Not that I want them to do that, mind you, because not everybody can afford to put that kind of cheese down for a game. But I think personally, given that license and its desirability by many people,
I think you get a few people selling two games to buy one.
Yes.
See that happening. We've seen it with other games, but I think Jaws is a big warm up for that. And depending on what they do with that, people will be thinking,
is that your opinion? Then it will be Jaws, and then maybe Back to the Future in the near future. Or?
I am. I'm kind of pretty confident right now. So, does Stern, and more importantly, Kapow, who's Stern's great friends over in Las Vegas. Do they want to do a Back to the Future? No doubt. So Joe Kamenikov, great guy, friend of mine, he absolutely wants to do Back to the Future. However,
Yeah.
he only wants to do Back to the Future that's right. He doesn't want to do some half-baked,
Doesn't want to do a Data East Back to the
doesn't
Future
want to
where
do
the
Charlie.
Michael Fox doesn't have his likeness on the back
Doesn't
glass.
want to do
Yeah.
Charlie. He doesn't want to do Willy Wonka where they don't even have Candyman in the bloody game. It's the biggest song, right? He wants to do it right, and I think he will wait to get all the assets, to get everything it needs to have before he builds another pinball machine. And I think it's a game that's got Elwyn written all over it.
True.
And who knows? But also I think it's a challenging. It's a everyone's got their own mental model of Back to the Future, and if it's such a big franchise that it's a brave person that takes it on. So look, all I hope is that you get to hear Power of Love, you get to shoot a ball at 66 miles an hour, and that the game flows well and it's fun to play.
88, but I'll let you off on that.
I couldn't remember. I knew it was. I thought it was 66 and a 6.
There'll be so many people going 88. 88, Neil. Come on.
Nothing. I remember going to see it in the 80s. It was so long ago. But yeah, look, I'll be honest. Back to the Future, Jaws is a bigger theme for me than Back to the Future, which a lot of people go, what? Back to the Future is a great
you prefer
movie.
Jaws over Back to the Future?
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Back to the Future. It's a great movie, but
sure.
For me, I don't know.
I think. I mean, argument-wise, I'd say there's more you can do with Back to the Future than you could in Jaws.
100%. I totally agree. And
because you've got obviously like the past, and then you've got obviously the number 3 with the Wild West. You've got obviously the future in number 2. So I feel like, yeah. It's funny, actually. Do you know what would be really weird? Maybe they could do this. It would be more funny, actually, if Back to the Future was first. And then do you remember Michael J. Fox in the second film?
Oh, yeah.
He ran in front of the cinema with the Jaws came out 3D. That would be the Easter egg to say, hey, Jaws is coming.
Jaws is coming. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I like, don't get me wrong, I love the Back to the Future movies, but for me, Jaws was just more, I don't know, it freaked me out more when I was a kid, I guess. And the other thing is I'm a massive Huey Lewis and the News fan. They're a big band. And, Power of Love is just one of those iconic soundtracks that, when we hear it, everyone's singing it, right? So I wish if whoever has got it, good luck to them. So let's move on, conscious of time. Let's just see what's going on in the UK. So obviously, we have the monster show that is UK PINFEST.
Indeed.
Up in Daventry from, well, it kind
the
of
25th.
I mean, it kind of starts Thursday night if you're up there Thursday night.
Well, I'd say, to point that out as well. I mean, there's a lot of people, I think, who obviously donate the machines to the venue, and Phil, who's the organizer, he said a lot of people will be down there on Thursday night. Beginning obviously to fill the event and get everything ready. I myself will be down there on Friday. I was actually asked if I was going to come down on Thursday. Phil does, as I say, does a stellar job organising what he does. It's a large event with lots of things going on. You've got ladies tournament, you've got the main tournament play for everyone else, you've got a classic tournament, and then of course you've got the main venue, which has got about 100 machines, all on free play throughout the weekend, Friday through to Sunday. And the games they've got on offer are just everyone's machines. I have to specify that, or stress even, these are contributions from the community. So
I mean, everyone. I mean, that is the thing that's amazing about it is everyone loads up a van and brings a ton of games. So
exactly.
And I've got some homework for you, Scott. At the event, there's going to be a Quicksilver and a Stargazer.
Okay.
You must play both of them. They're both Stern classics. I've got them in the club, so you got to play both of them. Come back and give me your view on them.
Okay, I will do.
There's some other games. There'll be a Big Lebowski there. Now, I have to say, Big Lebowski is an interesting game, but we had one in the club, and it's quite fragile. We had to, if it lasts the whole day, it'll be great. So, but play that game early would be my advice. But just based on what's there. Actually, I wanted to have a look at. Let me just bring up the list of games because there was.
I mean, yeah, Scooby Doo's going to be there. That
Yeah.
that for me was, again, that was donated through Pinball Heaven. So again, very much appreciate that. That's going to be at the show. For me, at least, again, I know it's another wide body, Neil, and you're not a big fan of wide bodies, but I think I'd like to try it. I definitely, it's on my list to go out
Well,
and play.
it's kind of weird because it isn't really a wide body.
So how would you say it's
played
not
it.
a wide body then?
So
Is
I've
that because
played
you
it.
think the playfield's more narrow because it's
There's
designed
no
that way?
there is no question about it, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
again, I'd be interested to get your take on it once you've played it. But one side of the playfield's got this thing on it that makes it smaller, and it's
Okay.
only the top that's really wide body. And actually, I think it works quite well in that mode. But
So the geometry would maybe allow for faster play then.
Oh,
So,
definitely. The play is absolutely faster, and the one thing about the game is it's got loads of U-turns in it, right? And my take on that is that basically it makes the game a bit faster, but I also found that the U-turns come back to flipper. So I mean, I played it for about at TPF. I played it, I don't know, I think for about an hour and 10 minutes on ball one.
it's quite a lot. On ball one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then there's a video of Carl D'Angelo playing it for like 3 hours, and then the game crashed or something. It is not the hardest game on the
Why
planet.
is that then? Is it because the shots are easy, or is it because the game doesn't really open itself up to drain? What is it?
They've just made the ball come back nicely to flipper a lot.
Okay.
And also on one side, I want to say the left side, they've got this weird drop target set up that makes it hard to lose the ball. And you know,
Blessing and a curse, isn't it? I mean, like some games I absolutely like. Walking Dead, there's a great example, right? You hit the bank of targets on that side and it's like roll the dice, are you going to drain today? It's I think, I don't know, some games it's like Elvira again. When it comes out of the pop bumpers, that's House of Horrors. This is, it can very much be a very risky maneuver. It can sometimes just go straight down the middle. I don't know, I like a game personally, it plays fair, but maybe that's too fair then.
Yeah, I mean, let me call out a few other games I would recommend people play. So let's go. So definitely RoboCop. It is such a good game, and Rob,
Yeah.
who's bringing that one, is a beautiful copy of it. Absolute amazing game. There's also a funny games coming from the club. So Diane and James from Majestic are bringing it up. It's not really a pinball machine. It's more of a kind of miniature 10-pin bowling. It's a lot of fun, especially a few beers and some dollars. Another amazing game, right? This is another one on the list. Mystery Castle.
Okay.
This is a very, very rare Alvin G game. It's got amazing music and some really cool DMD graphics. I absolutely love it. What else have we got here?
You see Magic Girl's going to be there?
Magic Girl, yeah, and Jim and the guys did a great job of making that work. But I mean, I'm not going to say anything about it. Play it and tell me what you think, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Puppet Shoot games, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So I'll have to see how it plays.
it's. I want to say something, but I'm going to resist. So I noticed you're taking up Lord of the Rings, which is that the nice Lord of the Rings that you're taking up?
Yeah, it's Holly's one. So my wife basically restored this one. I tried to keep away from it and said to her, "This is yours. You do it. You do all the restoration work. You strip it."
Well,
So
I've seen it. It's pretty beautiful. And actually, one other thing we wanted to mention, and if you look at our Facebook page, the Great British Pinball Podcast, Holly's going to upload some pictures of a remake that you're doing, Scott.
yes, yeah, I completely. Do you know what? She's going to kill me. I haven't even mentioned it. I mean, we were going to probably talk about this, but I suppose I'll give 2 minutes if you will, just because we're short on time. But basically, we're doing a retheme of a game. So the game in question is Johnny Mnemonic. We'll be releasing a teaser trailer shortly, which will basically give you an idea of what that is going to look like, along with the artwork. But just bear in mind, this is a complete retheme that we're looking at. So this means that we're doing music, call outs, animations, playfield, plastics, ramps, Even the ramps are being replaced. It's definitely something I've stretched myself for. I'm not going to lie. I felt like we wanted to take it to the next step, so we would like, thankfully I've saved a lot of money by pinching a lot of my wife's skill set in doing a lot of the
Yeah,
drawings. So we've
and
taken
I have to
scans of the
say,
playfield, and she's done a stellar job so
I
far
have to say
of redesigning it.
of the pictures I've seen, it'll just blow your mind. So Ollie's going to upload a couple of teaser pictures to our Facebook page.
Yeah.
It is, and it's still early days. I think still things can change, but
Absolutely.
it looks
We're definitely
amazing.
in early steps with it. I'd say, a lot of the stuff we've done already. So we've built the back glass, we've done the cabinet art. That's all been sent off. That's all been printed off. What else have we've done? The playfield, as I said, is halfway through production. I've sent off the playfield that went to Australia a few months ago, actually. And the guy's just waiting for us to finish the artwork so he can then begin the
I mean,
printing
let me
process.
tell you, no expense has been spared on this.
It's a very expensive
Um,
project. I'm not gonna lie.
but I have to say, when it's finished, I think we're going to see something very special. Is my take.
Yeah, I mean, one advantage as well, and I will point this out, is the fact that we're going down the custom ramp option, because the people may not know this, but the ramps are basically unobtainable. You can
Yeah,
kind of get the left and the middle, but the right side, you cannot get it. You can get it used, and that's basically it. And unfortunately, it's a George Gomez design. He likes his 90-degree bends, and it's being plastic in its original state. It just gets hammered and it cracks. And unfortunately, that's what happened with mine. I tried my best to source them. In the end, I've been talking through with someone, and we're making metal wire forms instead to replace them.
awesome.
So it might be useful for other people down the line who kind of want to get a more robust option out of a Johnny Mnemonic, rather than just saying, we're going to go with Scott's retheme. It'd be more like, okay, we can use the ramps.
Yeah, I mean, look, have a look at it. Give us your views. Something to be very excited about. And my hats off to Scott and Holly, who really have. It's easy to say I'm going to build a pinball machine or I'm going to do a retheme, and it's easy to do it badly.
Yeah.
And what I can see is something that's been really well thought out. I'm excited about it. I might even help you with some of the code. Not that I know what I'm doing, and I know I
I
write
always
code.
appreciate any help I can
I
get,
know
if I'm
how to
honest.
write code. I just don't know how to write code for pinball machines, but I'd definitely be up for having a go at it. So yeah, a couple of other games that you should definitely try. Now I'm really disappointed that Weird Al's not going to be there, because everyone asks, hey Neil, what do you think of P3?
Yeah.
And I like the P3 games, but they're not pinball.
I think they're different, right? And
Yeah,
I don't mind different.
no,
As I
me either.
say, I would love to have tried one, because I see it all the time. I watch a Twitch stream, and they say, "Oh yeah, you got to try this game called Heist. It's
Yeah,
one of the
Heist is
better versions in
great.
it." Yeah,
Weird Al's funny. Actually, Lex Speed is pretty good. Two players. It's definitely something very different, and they've done a lot to make it feel more like pinball. But I like to think of it as a special thing, because
sure.
the minute I compare it to pinball, I kind of start looking for things that aren't relevant. Like there's no plunge. The plunge comes from anywhere, but that's because it's not pinball. It's using certain aspects of pinball, but it's a new kind of, I don't know. I don't want to call it pinball 2.0, but it's just different. And the only way to describe it is for you to go play it. It's like Star Trek 4. Is it Star Trek 4 where McCoy asks Spock about death, and Spock says the only way I can talk to you about death is if you were to die. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got to have played it to be able to talk about it. So it's disappointing that's not going to be there. Hopefully next time we'll get one there. A couple of other games that I would encourage you to play: Ultraman. So Jim is bringing Ultraman. Really encourage you
Yep.
to play that, because it's terrible. No,
I've heard good things about Halloween. Is Ultraman? Because it's the same layout. Is it just the code's not as good, or what is that then?
I just think the design of the game is not where it needs to be, and
Okay.
code can do so much, but they got the design of the game not right. I mean, again, but look, some people love it. Julian, my old buddy down here, he's got Halloween. He loves it. Look, take your own view of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in with open eyes, I think, and just see what it's like. Just be open-minded about it. I think that's the great thing, as I say, about PinFest is that you're going to be able to try games from pretty much any era. It's going to be busy. My suggestion will be try and get there early if you can and play
Absolutely.
things early on. There's definitely advantages to that. I mean, I'm actually even thinking about getting some cooling units fitted to my flippers for Lord of the Rings because I'm worried about flipper fade over the duration of the weekend.
Yeah, I think, have you got the bigger flippers on Lord of the Rings though already?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay on that. If you had, there was two. I think the early Lord of the Rings came with slightly smaller ones, and they upgraded them.
Yeah,
I
I
think
heard
you'll be
about that.
fine. I think you'll be fine with the upgraded ones. But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely keep an eye on it. And then in the competitions, Game of Thrones in the main, crikey, that'll be interesting. Godzilla, Beatles.
What? Give me your view on that. Why do you think that's going to be difficult then?
It's a long playing game,
Oh, okay.
and there's so
Are
many
we talking
different ways.
Scooby Doo long play or is it?
It's probably not as bad as Scooby Doo. It's probably more tougher, but it's a game that there's so many different paths on it. Could be challenging.
Maybe they could just whack the tilt up and
I,
make
I
the
predict that's what they'll
yeah.
do. James Bond, so you definitely want to learn how to do the Bond girl multipliers if you want to get points on that. Blackjack, I was there before. I really enjoyed playing that. I wouldn't mind buying one of them. It's you just got to hit the 21, but it's unfortunately it's a one shot game really. Iron Man, it's really tough game, very flowy. F14, I just hate. NASCAR, that's a rare game, and it's got this interesting kind of loop on it as well that if you can get a chance, you should play it. Foo Fighters, actually, there might be a code update Thursday. I think I'm hearing there's a code update.
We should point out as well, these tournament games, you don't have to be a professional to go play it.
No,
So
no,
like
no.
if you want to go like just to try these games out because they're in the tournament lineup, the entry I think is like £10. It's not much on top of the ticket.
I would
And
I would
it's
encourage
definitely worth going at it.
everyone to put a ticket in for the
Yeah.
tournament because it's a lot of fun. Even if forget the top players, you're never going to beat them. But you and your buddies for a few beers, have a laugh,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
actually, you'll probably end up putting 2 or 3 tickets in because it is addictive. They've also got another great game in there, Metallica, Lyman Sheets game, phenomenal game. I recommend that. And then very quickly through the classics, I've mentioned Quicksilver. You got to go play that. There's a Flash Gordon there and a Galaxy there. So Galaxy is another Stern classic. Flash Gordon is one of the best games of all time.
It's definitely a sought after pin. Every time I
Yeah.
see it come up, everybody wants one.
I'll definitely do that. And then around, there's a charity machines that Chris Brim brings. He's got a Foo Fighters, he's got a Bond and Godzilla, all premiums. Definitely go play them. He's got a Tron LE of quite a rare game. So I would check them out. And then, as I said, Magic Girl, The Big Lebowski, and Scooby Doo will be in the lobby. Definitely worth going for them. There's also some EM games. Now, there was a time in my life where I would walk past EM games, but no longer. The electromechanicals, they are superb fun.
I definitely feel, Neil, you've definitely started going back in the older eras. You seem to find much more enjoyment out of those.
Well, I think it's a mix of them all. I mean, the don't get me wrong. Here in this room, there's not an old game in here now.
Sure.
In fact, the oldest game is, I want to say, X-Men. Believe it or not, that's the oldest game in here. So I still like my moderns, but I like a mix, and EMs can be a lot of fun. Circus is a great game, and there's a Nautilus as well. I'd check that out. But yeah, a lot of great games. I probably wouldn't play Jokers, but Bow and Arrow, Matt's taken out from the club. It's a great game, and what else is there? Just Houdini. Everyone should go play that, and because you'll then agree with me on how hard it is. It's brutal.
Isn't that the game where you've got a ball that literally just flies across the playfield and gets caught by a trunk or something?
Yeah, it goes into like there's a milk thing or something. I can't remember, but all I
No,
can
it's
remember,
crazy mech when I think
I
about it.
just found that the shots are so tight. And there's a Ghostbusters Premium which I would go play because it's got these Magna slings that I actually think are cool. If they take a bit of tweaking to set up right, but once done, it's great. other things on. So Medway Pinball. I want to just make sure I get the dates right on this. So Medway Pinball have got an event. It's their birthday. I think is it their first or second birthday? I can't remember. Let me just find it. Yeah, it's the anniversary. So it's their first anniversary, and it's on. I can't find it. I think it's the 20. Hold on. I want to say the 20. Let me just get the calendar up. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there because I'm at Pinball at the Lake. Sorry, Pinball at the Lab in Los Angeles, which is another tournament I'm going to. It's the IE Pinball guys run. I help them out with it. It's the 16th and 7th. No, it's the 23rd and 24th. Sorry, of September. Have a look on Pinball Info if you want to sign up. There is the obviously UK Open at the end of September. We're sold out except for ladies. We got Keith Elwin, the GOAT, is going to be there. He registered. He was the second last
Very
person
nice.
to register. Yeah, so I'm really pleased about that. It's going to be great to see Keith. Then the first week of December, we have the Pinball Republic Monster Meet. It's our 6th birthday. It's going to be a big weekend of tournament play and fun and probably some stuff to eat. And then we've also put a tournament in just before the end of the year so you can avoid doing the things that you've avoided for 3 years whilst you're on holiday. We're calling it the New Year Fry Up on the 28th and 29th. It's a big... We're running a tournament that will score a lot of what we call IFPA Whoppers. It's a certified tournament, and it will be worth 250% TGP, which basically means compared to other pinball events, you're getting 2.5 times what you'd normally get. So, and it's the last tournament of the year, likely. So, if you
And
want
is that sold out yet, or is there still
no,
availability
there's
on it?
still loads of spaces. If you go to our Pinball Republic Facebook page, you'll get more details about it, or just ping me. But so it'll be a lot of fun, and it's kind of Thursday and Friday because it's it's that bit between New Year and Christmas where you're either in the sales going mad, or you're fixing something that you want to fix that you've put off for years, or if you're smart, you bail out of all of that and you go play pinball at Pinball Republic.
Fair enough.
And then in the new year, on the 2nd of January, I haven't told my wife this yet, so I'm going to be shocked. But 2nd of January, I'm boarding a plane to Los Angeles for the Open World Championship at Indisc, of course. How did I forget that? But yeah, so which they announced, and it'll be hugely exciting. So busy period. I think we're done, Scott.
Yeah.
We're 1 hour 32 minutes.
Look, we tried to keep it to an hour, everyone. All right. We maybe have divvied a little bit longer than we thought on some parts, but we've tried to keep to a certain time.
Just on that, we've had kind of different feedbacks. We've had people say it's too long, people say it's too
Yep.
short. I personally think 1 hour 15, 1 hour 30 is okay. 2 hours is definitely too long.
Sure.
So, by the time I stick the 1 minute, 1 second intro on, we'll be at 1:35. But Scott, it's been a pleasure. Everyone, I hope you have a great time up at PinFest. And we will see you in a month's time where we will talk about what happened, and probably a preview of the UK Open, and a bit
Good
more
stuff.
on your retheme and
hopefully I'll
my
have some
Fear of
more to
Magic
reveal.
hopefully.
Yeah. Your Fear of Magic should be done by then, so we can definitely do a whole talking bit on that, no doubt.
Cool. Look, if you want to give us feedback, join us on Facebook. We've got a Facebook group there. Just search for the Great British Pinball Podcast, or ping me or Scott on Messenger. We're not we're kind of new at this. We're learning as we go along, but we're enjoying it. Last event we had over 500 people listen or watch, so which blew both mine and Scott's mind away. So
Definitely.
great to see.
Yeah, we
that.
appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's great that people wanted to listen to it. And folks, I'm just going to end with one message. You don't need to worry about the price of pinball. You don't need to worry about the price of toppers. You don't need to worry what Stern are doing next week or what JGP are doing last week. Here's all you need to worry about. Press the start button, pull the plunger, and get the best score you can get. That's all you have to worry about. And when you're doing that, just enjoy it. Enjoy the moment. Watch that ball and put the rest of the world out of your mind. I'm Neil McRae.
I'm Scott. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. See you
Cheers.
in a month.